Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How is everybody doing today? It's a fabulous freaking Sunday. Good morning, OG.
Good morning, Scott. What's up? Happy to be on the Compass Rose podcast here, the True
True
North
North
podcast.
Podcast. So,
Yeah,
this is my co-host, the OG, and today we have a very, very special guest for everybody. It is George from Tampeno Cigars. So, without further ado, here we go. George, how you doing?
good morning.
Can you hear me, George? Uh-oh, he lost sound.
Yeah, it looks like we got a little audio difficulties here. I was experiencing that in the pre-show.
You might have to hop right out and come right back in. Well, without that. Anyway, today again, see, now for everybody who doesn't know, that is George from Tampeno Cigars. Now, the Compass Rose, that's who makes my cigars, is Tampeno. So we are very excited to talk about the man behind the scenes. Yep, you're way off to left field. There you go. Bring it down right
There
there.
it is.
There's the Compass
There we go.
Rose. So we're going to get a little bit of the background, and not only on a cigar brand owner or anything like that. Hey, George, can you hear me now?
Perfect. Everything works great now.
Everything works great. Yeah, it
I don't know
happens
what
every
happened.
so often. So
Yeah.
I was letting our audience know and all that with the Compass Rose, not only that you're a cigar maker, you have your own stuff and all that, but you're also the Compass Rose cigar maker as well.
Yes. And it was a great project. Something that was easy. I had somebody asked me this question the other day about how was it making the Compass Rose and how was it, working with Scott. And I said it's probably one of the easiest projects I've ever done. And not that we just threw something together. It was easy in the sense that, you were very open about what you wanted. You gave us a clean slate and said, hey, look, this is what I want, run with it. At the time of dealing back and forth with blending and all the other stuff, everything was just great. It was a fun process. So I was really happy to do it. And the cigar turned out great.
Oh, it's
Yes, it did.
I love it. I'm excited about it. But a quick question though is, how did you even get into cigars? If you could touch base on what your background is.
So I actually don't come from tobacco in my background. Being Cuban, most people automatically expect that you come from tobacco, and I didn't. Well, I take that back. I didn't find out until years after I was in the industry that I had some tobacco background in me. But honestly, the cigar thing for me started as an accident. Um,
Really?
it was nothing I planned on doing. I never grew up saying I wanted to have a cigar business. It wasn't my passion or anything like that. It started off for me more as just, something that I would see my dad and my grandfather and my uncles and everybody smoke cigars as a, normal thing. And I started getting into it myself. Long story short, I had a friend of mine who was also a cigar connoisseur at a younger age than most people start to smoke cigars. And we always said how cool it would be to have our own cigar company. Long story short, we went down to Dominican Republic, learned how cigars work, learned about the fields, learned as much as we could, and started a business. End of 2021, we ended up parting ways, and I then opened up Tampeno in 2022.
That's pretty exciting.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
it was more of a
Wow,
hobby
that's
at
awesome.
first. It was more of a hobby, and go out on the weekends and go out after work and hit shops and trying to grow and trying to develop new blends and stuff. And then finally one day we said, wait a second, there's money in this. We could potentially live off of cigars, and it's something that we liked. At that point I was already passionate about it. It was something that I already enjoyed. I mean, I was smoking every day, and just the camaraderie that went with cigars, I really enjoyed, and yeah, took it by the horns.
I would say you definitely
Nice.
did because you've done some amazing things with a lot of cigars. Like I'm smoking one
Thank
of your
you.
cigars right here. if you can elaborate on it, it's a Lancero, but it's a Maduro.
Yeah, so that's a Lancero Maduro. Filler on that's Nicaraguan, binders Indonesian, and the wrapper on it San Andreas. And I say that a lot, and a lot of people, I don't want people to think that our blends are all the same because they're not. When I tell you Nicaraguan fillers, there's so many different variations you can do with Nicaraguan fillers, and there's so many different um, mixes that you can do just by placing the tobacco in a different part of the filler. That completely changes the whole flavor profile of the cigar. So anybody that hears me say those three things, or everything Nicaraguan filler, don't get alarmed. Don't think that I'm just making a bunch of different cigars and different sizes with all the same blends, because that's not what's happening. um that cigar right there, for being a Maduro, it's not an ass kicker. It's nothing that's gonna put you really down. It does have a good flavor profile,
Mm-hmm.
being the fact I'm a Lancero guy. I like small ring gauges. I like Lanceros, Panaderas, Coronas, anything that's in that small gauge. I feel like you personally get more flavor out of it. You get more of just the overall mix of what you're looking for in a cigar, in my opinion. Not everybody likes small ring gauges. So to me, anything in a small ring gauge is good. That Maduro is one of my favorite in the Lancero, definitely.
Yeah,
I
I've
love
heard that a lot about the smaller gauge cigars, that you get more flavor out of them. Now, I personally, I say not. I like my Gordo size
Okay.
cigar, because when I smoke a cigar, I'm there for the experience and I'm there for the long haul. I don't go in for a quick smoke and on my day. Like, I'm going to have that cigar, and I know I'm going to kill an hour, hour and a half doing nothing but relaxing and enjoying my smoke. So that's just my personal preference. But I can see why people enjoy that smaller gauge. The robusto. The
Listen, the
um,
big ring gauges aren't what they used to be. Big ring gauges before. The problem is that, and I consider myself in this mix that I'm about to say, we didn't know how to properly blend big ring gauges because it wasn't done. So, I personally had this experience where I made one blend in three different sizes, one of them being a 660. For the life of me, I couldn't figure out why the 660 tasted so much different than the other sizes. And it's because making it such a large ring gauge, you have to really change the amount of tobaccos and the percentages of these fillers you're putting in there to reach that that goal that you're looking for, like you would in a 52 or a 54 ring gauge. But now, I mean, 60s are just as flavorful and just as strength wise as any small ring gauge cigar. I personally think that, depending on how you smoke, because everybody smokes different, a Lancero should definitely last you 45 minutes to an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I still do think that it does pack a little bit more of the overall punch. And I don't mean just strength wise, I'm talking about flavor and everything, than a bigger ring gauge. But nowadays, with as advanced as we are with blending and percentages of tobaccos for these bigger ring gauges, like I make a 70. I think that a
okay,
660 could definitely hold its game, versus a small ring gauge.
okay,
Those are
very
interesting
cool.
facts right there. I mean, it's different, and having a actual manufacturer on, and to be able to talk about it and know about a little bit about the background. How do you even start something like that? Like, their factory is in Nicaragua. If
Yes,
you
so we have a factory in Nicaragua that we work very closely with. We do most of the distribution for all the products that come out of the factory, plus lines for ourselves, lines for obviously like the Compass Rose and so on there and so forth. And then we're partnered with a factory in the Dominican where we make a couple private lines as well, and we have a line of flavored cigars that we make in the Dominican.
very
So, George,
nice.
when you say flavored cigars, is that an infused cigar, or what?
No,
There is a
no,
difference, right, between
there is a difference.
infused and flavored, correct? Could you
There is a
explain that
difference.
to our? Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. So when you infuse a cigar, a lot of people use the infusing process at home. That's where a lot of people will get some type of cedar, tray, humidor, box, however they want to do it. They place the cigars there with no cellophane. and they put a cup, and this is the I'm telling you the way to do it at home, not how they're done in factories. Obviously, they'll place a cup of coffee beans, of rum, of vanilla extract, whatever. And a cigar is a sponge, pretty much. A cigar will suck up whatever aromas are near it. You leave a cigar next to an onion in your fridge, it's gonna taste like an onion. You know, that's the infusing process where the aromas of whatever it is that you're housing together with it are being infused into what the cigar is sucking up in the foot, the wrapper, everything. Flavoring process is different. Flavoring, we use FDA approved flavors. They're all organic extract flavors, and what we do is basically spray all the leaves. Every single filler leaf that goes in there, binder, and even sometimes the wrapper gets sprayed. I don't personally like it because the wrapper gets ugly, if that makes any sense. Um,
Mhm.
but sometimes if you don't spray the wrapper, by having so much flavoring on the rest of the cigar, it seeps into the wrapper anyway. Um, One of the things that I do different than a lot of other people is I made my flavored cigars long fitter. Because most people use short fitter, sandwich fitter. They say, "Yeah, it's a cheap cigar, let's just flavor it and people are going to buy it." I wanted to do something different and I wanted to make a cigar as premium as possible. You know, obviously you're not going to use high quality fillers to a certain point if you're just going to spray them with flavoring. But I wanted to make a long filler. I wanted to give anybody that was smoking that flavored cigar the closest experience to them feeling like they're not being left out or excluded, or even or criticized because they're smoking a flavored cigar. I want them to feel. I made them in regular sizes. You know, just it's a regular cigar with flavoring. I mean, I don't know how really else to put it. You know.
Don't
So let me
that's
ask you this. So let me ask you this again, staying on the subject of infused versus flavored. Is the idea behind infused versus flavored, that you're not covering up uh, the presence of the tobacco, correct? Like with a flavored cigar, it's heavier. You're getting more of the flavor and less of the flavor of the tobacco. Am I correct, or
It
am I
it
wrong?
depends. It really depends on the tobacco you're using overall and the cigar they're using. There are certain tobaccos that are so predominant that the flavoring can't mask it off. For an example, broadleaf.
Okay.
Good luck trying to cover up broadleaf taste with flavoring. I mean, you can and you'll mask it, but you'll still get that flavoring of tobacco. Infusing, the issue with that you have with infusing is it's not a bad concept. I personally don't like flavored cigars. I make them, but that is more of a variety type of business plan than personal. You know, and I can't make everything that I like personally because then I wouldn't sell anything. You know what I mean? That would be a hobbyist and not a
Hmm.
businessman.
mhm.
Infused is something I probably would prefer to smoke more myself personally, which I know that contradicts everything that I do. Um, because after a certain point of the cigar, that infused flavored is gone. It's went away. But the issue that you run into there then is once that flavoring goes away, you are smoking a very basic, probably short filler cigar. Again, nobody uses expensive or you know a little bit more medium, middle of the road quality cigars to flavor. With the flavoring, you're covering every single part of the cigar. So from the beginning to the end, that cigar should have the same flavor it started out with, flavor profile was. For an example, mine also have a good tobacco taste to them as well. So it all depends. You know, I have sweet tips on them too. So I have some cigars where it's just a regular. For an example, I have a line, very small, of the newspaper Connecticut cigars with the sweet
Okay.
tip. It's the same exact cigar that everybody smokes with a sweet tip on it. That's it. And a lot of people prefer that.
Okay.
So it
What
depends.
Hmm.
so what
Okay.
made you come up with the concept with the newspaper?
The newspaper is actually not something I came up with, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
I know a lot of people. I've been the one to kind of commercialize it, but it's not something that I came up with. The newspaper has been used since the early days of cigars in Cuba, before there was molds. You know, there was no molds. What they would do is they would roll the cigar. They once they would roll the wrapper, on the cigar, they would then roll in the newspaper, and that newspaper being
Oh,
thick, they would twist the ends. That newspaper being thick would compress and kind of act like a mold. Before there was any such thing as molds, they would set them out in the sun. With the sun and that paper, it would help keep them in shape. On top of that, if you notice any of our newspaper cigars, the wrappers are pristine on them. I mean, they're smooth, silky, and that's thanks to the paper. There's a lot of other factories. I'm not going to mention names because they're big and they might not want people to know it. They wrap their cigars, every single cigar they make, in paper, newspaper, whatever. They obviously just take them out of the newspaper to then band them, cellophane them, and box them. But the paper really does play an effect on the cigar in a bunch of different aspects. Even in the aging process. For an example, we have a little bit of a higher demand and don't have the space or the time to age cigars as long as we would like to. So bringing them in the newspaper, they continue to age because that newspaper is sucking out humidity and it's compacting and pressing that cigar together. And we're kind of helping the cigar while it's sitting in the warehouse with the aging process. If the cigar sits another 3 weeks, 4 weeks in the warehouse, that's a whole other month of aging it got. Now, the month and a half it had at the factory, plus the other month here, by the time it hits somebody's humidor and they put it in their humidor, that cigar's been aged 4 or 5 months. That's pretty good. You know what I mean?
Oh, right.
Especially for
yeah.
a
Oh, wow.
what you would call a bundle cigar. Even though I think the newspaper has kind of surpassed bundle, I think it's more kind of its own line at this point. Um,
Okay.
but it was intended to be just a bundle cigar.
That is absolutely fascinating. That is something nobody's ever explained the concept behind the newspaper, um, you know, um, wrapper on it, the dressing on it. Nobody's
Yeah,
ever explained that before. That's amazing, and that's good. That's fantastic. Thanks for sharing that with us, man.
definitely. And
Well,
even then, it wasn't something that was intended to be commercialized and sold like that. It just so happened one day that we had cigars made for a customer, a blend for one of their lines, and we brought the cigars in newspaper because they were rushing to try them. And we said, well, let's just bring them in the newspaper so that way, they can continue to age and dry out a little bit on the ride over here from Nicaragua. And when we put them on the shelf in the warehouse, everybody's like, "Bro, I want that cigar newspaper. I wanted a newspaper. I wanted a newspaper." We're like, "What makes the newspaper so special?" I personally, I kind of don't like the newspaper that much, and I've never really been on camera saying that. To me, it just hides the overall perfection of the quality of our cigars and the overall look and all that. But it's already became such a big deal that it'll be hard to take the newspaper off. I mean, I have people that'll call me from stores and say, "Hey, the newspaper you sent me this go around wasn't in Spanish or it wasn't this." I'm like, what does it matter? It's a newspaper. Who cares? So yeah, it's became a big deal already. So
Yeah. So we were. I'm on upstate New York, and I was actually trying to help get your newspapers into our lounge. They
okay,
actually tried them there, and they actually liked them. But the reason why they turned it down was the fact that it was in the newspaper.
that's understandable.
Some shop owners just have they. It's a perception thing for them. They want it to look
I get
elegant.
it.
They want it to look classy, and they just were like, "No, because of the newspaper. No, we're not going to bring them in." So
I get it.
I can see my. I guess my point is, I can see different shop owners' perspective on that about the newspaper.
Definitely. And listen, it's not my favorite. But it's too bad to or too hard to change it now. Uh,
mhm.
First of all, thank you for helping us try to get in there, and I really do appreciate it. I wish that obviously those that comment would have been relayed earlier because I would have been able to maybe fix the situation. But just so that and you can relay it to them if you would like, we do make the newspaper cigar and bring it in with no newspaper on it. So that's something that
Okay.
if you do with that what you want.
Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely.
No. Listen, I got to be honest with you. I had tried. I'm not a Connecticut guy. It's just not. It's not my style. It's not my kind of cigar. And a buddy of mine actually gave me one of your Connecticut's, and he was like, "Listen, I know. It's a Connecticut. You're not interested." He's like, "But do me a favor. Wipe your mind clean. and he said, "Just go into this cigar with an open mind and tell me what you think." And George, I'm not lying, and I'm not saying it just because you're on here, but the God's honest truth is, he handed me that cigar. I cut it. You know, I took a cold draw, and from the cold draw, my eyes popped out of my head. I had to immediately light the thing up, and good, dude, I am hooked on that. Connecticut was
I
amazing,
appreciate
absolutely
that.
amazing.
You know, it's
And
funny. First of all,
so,
thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Wow, that's crazy. I'm not much of a Connecticut smoker myself, and that Connecticut, not because it comes from us, it is really good. I mean, I'm smoking one right now. I can't tell you
Hmm.
the last time I smoked a Connecticut, but it's probably the only Connecticut I'll smoke, to be honest with you, because it's the only one that meets everything that I feel like a Maduro and a Habano smoker can smoke and still enjoy.
Exactly. See, I
yes,
love the
agreed,
idea.
agreed.
But it's also educating in because again, a lot of us didn't know the history and the background when it comes to the newspapers that
Yeah,
they've been used. They just haven't been commercialized. And again, it's about customer base, what the customer wants. Hey, we'll make sure the customer will get that.
correct,
And
correct, correct.
the way you explain it, and then with being a problem as such, which is great to talk about, is how do you address it? With shops. Hey, as long as you get the feedback, you can accommodate that
Oh,
because you
100%.
understand.
That's the good thing about us is that you have a lot of people that and it's not to knock on anybody else, but they say they're manufacturers or they say that there are a lot of things in the industry. They're master blenders, which that's to me something that's not a title you should give yourself. That's a title I think that you should be given and you should earn. I love blending and I've dedicated myself, especially in the last 2 or 3 years, to really dive deep into tobacco and understand what it does and understand how it mixes. And I don't consider myself a master blender by any means. I mean, I have help along the way from real master blenders who have been doing this 20, 30, 40 plus years. Um, I can't take sole credit on all the blends, even though a lot of them have been my ideas. A lot of them have been stuff that I've, personally was the one to come up with and work on. But it's not just something that I try. I say this is a hit and it's going to come out. I have people in both factories who are very well experienced and knowledgeable who help give me that green light. And
Okay.
that's something that I think that is very important. Now, with what I was saying before, Scott, with what you were saying, it's a little bit different with us. Yes, we can accommodate anything because we are the factory. That's the difference. You know what I mean? We've perfectly set this up where the factory is its entity, Tampeno Cigars is its own entity, but we are working together for a greater goal. If we can grow a part here, we grow a bigger part in the factory in Nicaragua and vice versa. And same thing with the factory in the Dominican Republic. So I mean, we have full reign over anything we want to do, any products, any tobacco. I mean, it's just it makes it much easier to be able to speak confidently about, hey, I can do whatever you want. Just like I had a conversation with you, Scott. I can do whatever you want. We can figure it out. I'll tell you what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, and take it or leave it. And I tell everybody, I'm an open book. I have nothing to hide. My business is pretty much as open as possible.
Hmm.
And it's because what we do, what we say is what we really do, so yeah, we can fix any situation, make a bad situation into a good one, try not to make a good one into a bad one,
Right.
but make things work.
But you've done just that. You succeeded, and a lot of people don't realize. Yes, you're young, and when
Yeah.
people look at a young person, it's like, well, how do you have the experience? So you gain the experience. You go out there, you travel to the factories, you're going in there, you're testing, you're smelling, you're watching, you're learning
Oh yeah.
from start to finish.
Yeah, no, that's one thing that I could tell you, and it's one of the main things that I had, like when Freddie came on board early years. um he was always an aficionado, and I said, listen, bro, when I'm going to take you, but when you step foot on a field and when you're able to go inside of a factory, your love and your passion for this, not even just a business, just for cigars, is going to change. And that's one of the things I prided myself on the most, because I don't like talking out of my ass and saying I know something when I don't. And not that if you haven't traveled to the factories and the fields, you don't know what you're talking about. But when you see it with your own eyes, it's different, you know. And there's always people that do things their own way, and I've learned that from traveling to different countries, to different factories. Everybody has their own process and their own method, but there's a cut and dry, simple 1, 2, 3 of cigars that nobody can do different. You know, there's only one way of doing a certain part of this business. So if anybody comes to you different and says, "Well, that's wrong," you can say, "Listen, bro, I was there. I saw how it was done. You know what? Tell me about your experiences." So definitely, and Scott, we've talked about this a couple times, you have to find the time to go, and you have to find the means on learning when you're there. You know, I still go to the factories now, and I go on business. I go to make blends, I go to do different things, and there's a couple days where I don't say anything and I just follow the owner of the factory, or I follow one of the production managers, and I'm just there for 2 days, not doing business and watching, because you learn something new every single time you're there.
And it's fascinating to me, and I have to get the opportunity because, again, like you said, it's about a team effort, okay? And it starts from growing it out in the fields to putting it in the factory. Everybody, all the workers that do it day in and day out, to you're out there making blends. That's your idea, as you were talking about. And then as a brand owner, yes, it's faces, but you work as a team
Correct.
collectively. So any successes that we all have, it's everybody's success.
100%. 100%. The more, and listen, this is the way I see it. A lot of people say, "Well, why do you make brands for other companies and you haven't made your own line for yourself yet?" Which I did at one point with the old company, but under Tampeno, I have not released a official Tampeno line. All the stuff that we have is, you know, bundle stuff in the newspaper, which is, I wouldn't consider that a premium, even though I think it's a premium cigar. It competes with a lot. It's, I can tell you, it's high end tobacco is being put into it. It's not the elegance that people are looking for. You know, like OG said in that shop. So Tampeno will be releasing a elegant premium line this year. And everybody always criticizes me and says, "Well, why do you do it for other people and you don't do it for yourself?" And you know, I tell them, if they win, I win. If they sell 40,000 cigars a month, that means I'm selling 40,000 cigars a month, and I
Mhm.
can live vicariously through all the people that I make cigars for. So to me, you know what I'm saying. Half the blends that are out right now on the market, some people are open about that I make it for them. Some people aren't, to each their own. Half of blends that are on the market right now, including yours, Scott, are blends that I've made for myself to release a cigar under Tampeno. And
Right.
somebody always comes up to me and says, "Hey, I'm looking at releasing a cigar. What do you got?" And I'm like, "All right, I'll give them this blend and I'll make another for myself later." So I have easily right now 6 or 7 blends on the street in shops right now that were meant to be for Tampeno that are doing very well. And I just give them away, if that makes any sense, you know?
Oh yeah, but in essence, it is Tampano.
Correct. So that's why it doesn't bother me. And people are like, "You're crazy. Why would you do that?" You know, there's people that don't even say you make it. That's fine. I don't care. You know, at some point, you also need to look at the financial side of this, because I do live off of cigars. I do live off of tobacco. So at some point in time, you got to put your pride down and not worry so much about the fame, and worry a little bit about making ends meet as well. So for the people that don't want to say I make it for them, that's okay. As long as they keep paying their invoices on time, I'm happy.
That's the
Amen.
and it works.
So,
Man, it's
So yeah,
fascinating.
I've got actually one of Scott's cigars right now lit up. I've got the Maduro,
I came
and
out good.
I'm the dark leaf guy. I'm the fuller bodied guy. I really enjoy that. To me, those medium to mild cigars, just they're not what I'm looking for. And
I agree.
when Scott sent me my very first Compass Rose cigar, the Maduro, I was I'm not just saying it. I If anybody knows me that watch me on social media, I don't blow up something just to blow up something, just to put their name out there. I blow it up because I enjoy it. And this Compass Rose, the moment I lit it up, I was like, this is an absolutely fantastic cigar. It's got depth, it's got body, it's got the look, it's got the feel, the texture, right down to the there I am, right down to the label on this thing is what I look for in a cigar. The entire experience of the cigar, and you hit a home run with the Compass Rose.
Thank you, thank you. I mean, and it was a mix between all of us. One of the things that I really appreciate Scott for is listening, and hearing what I had to say. Because a lot of people come to me and say, "Hey, I want to make a cigar." I tell them I recommend this, I recommend that. Let's go this way, let's do this, because I'm studying the market every day. I'm looking at different things, I'm smoking different products, but I don't look at it from just, okay, this cigar is good. I look at it from, that cigar is selling. What can we do to make something that's going to sell just as good? Or how can we tweak that? I'm looking at it from an analyst type of point, even though I'm no analyst at all. And not for nothing, I have relationships with a lot of these big manufacturers who have entrusted in me to share some of their analytics data that are done by professional people that do census to see what cigars are being sold in the market, what location and stuff. So I bring a little bit of insight into what I'm making. Scott, thank God, was very open and said, "Hey, I want to listen to your feedback. I want to put my touch on it, but I want to let you do what you do." And I think that the goal for Compass Rose was not to overextend ourselves and try to make the cigar of the year. Because let's face it, a lot of extra stuff goes into the cigar of the year, and it's a lot of money involved. There's a lot of politics involved. But I told Scott, I said, "Look, let's make something that's going to be a good cigar every day of the year, day in, day out. Something that's going to be presentable, but not too overboard. Let's put something out that's going to get Compass Rose known, Compass Rose rebranded and known,
Yes,
something
sir.
that everybody is going to be able to confidently purchase that cigar and not think that they're going to have an issue," which again comes from any manufacturer. There will be cigars that might have a tight draw. There will be cigars that might burn uneven. That's Fuentes do it. All the big companies do it. But that I just wanted Scott to have something that was not going to let down the name Compass Rose, and anybody could have smoked it, just like you're saying now, with no problem. First one in and say, "Damn, this is good. This is worth the money." That's what I look for. I look for somebody that when they're paying money for a product, they enjoy their product and they're willing to purchase it again and enjoy it again. That's it. Whatever comes after that comes.
And I think
Well, I
that's
can tell you again. Oh, sorry, Scott. Go ahead.
oh
I'm sorry.
no, I think that's exciting because you have the manufacturer, and on your end, on what you do, brand owner and consumer, and then you have a consumer, and now the national or the sales rep, the director, and all that of the Compass Rose. But you're getting all angles and the feedback, because the feedback is really, really important because it helps you out. It helps all of us out. Put out a good quality product.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
And
So I was just going to touch base real quick. I just want to say, so to go back to the newspaper, the actual physical newspaper that was on the one cigar, that the same exact shop just signed on with Scott and purchased two
I
bundles
I
of the
heard.
Compass Rose.
I heard.
And
That's exciting.
listen, not only was it the flavor, the owner said the label was exactly what he was looking for. So and I didn't say it to him. I saw him in person. I didn't say, well, the guy that makes this is the guy that makes the newspapers. I didn't say that. I just,
It's okay. It's okay.
I, but it goes back to my point. Shop owners are funny. Sometimes it's all about perception and
Yes, sir.
image, and other times it's not. But you like anybody that wants the newspaper, I strongly suggest get it because they're just absolutely phenomenal. And same thing with the Compass Rose. Ask Scott. I would not have jumped on with Scott if I didn't like the cigar. No, if I didn't love the cigar, I would not have jumped on with the Compass Rose because again, I don't push anything I don't like. If I don't like it, I don't say anything at all. I'm not that guy that will go on
You
and
shouldn't.
bash anybody or any company or whatever.
You
But if I
shouldn't. You
like it,
shouldn't.
because I'm on social media, I'm pumping it. If I'm pumping it, I like it and I genuinely back it. So you got some great stuff, George. Amazing
Thank you.
stuff.
Thank you, man.
I'm happy to finally get to talk to you. I've heard so much about you and nothing
Thank
but
you. Thank you.
compliments across the spectrum. So
I
I'm
appreciate
glad
that.
you're on here with us, and man, I
Thank
hope
you.
we can do this again. I got to jump out, guys. I'm so sorry, but I have
No,
to
you're
scoot
good.
out of here. I've got a prior commitment. George, have a fantastic day. Thank you again, brother.
Thank you, man.
You're
Thank you
amazing.
too.
Come back on the Compass Road again. I promise I'll spend the
Definitely.
entire time on the next
It's all
one.
right, man. I
But I
understand. I
but
I
I
had
gotta
some
go.
engagements too, and that's why we had to move things around. So I
Hey, it's
appreciate
all
you taking the
good.
time.
I'm still staying on. And
All
don't
right,
worry,
guys.
he's my
There we
co-host. You
go.
got to go. Hey, thank you, brother. You have a great
I'll see
day.
you.
All right, man.
Yep, you
Absolutely.
too, guys. Bye. I'll see you soon.
All right, bye.
But I wanted it was really important to have OG on there so that you
Definitely.
can get his perspective as well. So you're getting
No, and
all
that's
the way
good.
around.
You need people that are in the shops all day long, really moving and grinding on the ground level. I used to have that in me. And it's not that I don't like it anymore. Simply I just don't have the time that I used to have to be able to be in shops all day long, every day, visiting and getting the feedback from the ground up. So anytime I can have somebody on OG's level that's pounding the pavement, as we would say, give us feedback, that's phenomenal. Because if it's great feedback, good. If it's bad feedback, cool. That's even better. Let's figure out how to fix it and make it good.
Yeah, well, even on that, like just as far as like the newspaper perspective, at least now you know because he frequents a lot of shops. The Park Lane, that's his regular shop that he always goes to just to get away and to enjoy. But it's about enjoying that cigar. And when he can pick it up, not
Every
knowing it and knowing that it's a good cigar, that's important.
Yeah, man. Every store is different. Every city's different. Every state is different. There's places I walk into. And we have stores scattered around everywhere that we sell to. There's some stores I walk into and people go crazy over the newspaper, and there's some stores that just don't care for it.
Mhm.
So it's just one of those things where it doesn't upset me, it doesn't make me angry. There's a solution to everything, and we've gotten one solution. So if you like the newspaper cigar and you want it without the newspaper, it's an option. For those guys that want to carry only cigars with bands on them, we have the Vegas de Jalapa, and we will soon be releasing something without a band as well. I mean, with a band as well. So we'll have that taken care of for just the bundle guys. We got that taken care of for the guys that are price conscious. We got something that taken care of. Flavor people, we got flavors. And you know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to be well rounded, so there is no reason why we should be told no anytime we try to make a sale somewhere.
Exactly. Again, that's exciting to get all of the different points of view. And again, I gotta say many thanks to you and
Oh man,
to
come
the
on.
factory and everybody who's ever hands that created the Compass Rose because it's sensational. Even Maria in Dominican Republic, who made the labels for me in the
Yeah.
packaging, went off, listened to you, and hey, you're not gonna point me in the wrong direction.
No, she took care
Listen,
of everything. Everything came out beautiful.
oh, it's elegant, but it's what I wanted, what I envisioned. Yes, I created it. It was in my head, put it down, but I was able to explain what I wanted. And
Correct.
to be able to be, how do you say, not user friendly, but cigars, friendly and all that. So if somebody comes to you, it's that easy to be able to come up to a manufacturer and ask them, hey, I want to be able to create my own cigar. And what goes into that? Like, what are some of the questions that you ask the person?
What do I ask somebody?
Yes, sir.
Um, the first thing I ask them is if they have the proper licensing, if their LLC is up and running, what's going on there, because there's no sense of me getting into the cigar part of it if they're not incorporated as a business yet, or if they don't have that part done. So usually what I'll tell them is if they don't have that done, I try to point them in the right direction. If they're in a different state of Florida, I don't know how every state's business laws work. So I tell them to kind of research that a little bit, figure out how they can get their business LLC open, how they can get their licenses, and then, we'll revisit the cigars once you're up and running. If they have all that stuff done, one of the first things I tell them is my minimum on cigars, just so that they understand, because I don't want any surprises. I don't want them to waste time, and I don't want to waste time myself. Once we get
Okay.
past that part, then I say, what is it that you're looking for? What is it that you want to create, and take it from there. What I'll do is, like what I did with you and multiple other people's, is I say, hey, look, I'll have some blends that or we've made, they're sitting, or I'll give you some stuff that we already have out in rotation, but I want you to try it, and then we'll tweak it from there. Sometimes, if it's a blend that I send them, we hit the nail on the head, and they say, "Hey, does anybody have this?" No, I sent you something that was new. Perfect. I want this one. Sometimes people want to tweak, add more flavor. They want less strength or more strength. Or, the problem is that a lot of people that are new in this industry don't understand and they can't translate what they're looking for in the tobacco terms. So, for an example, if, you wanted to add more pepper to your cigar, you can't
Hmm.
call a factory and say, I want more pepper. You have to have somebody like myself, and there's multiple other people like me who understands how pepper translates into tobacco, so that way you can try to have the factory, hey, send me the blend, but send it to me with less of this and more of this. Or maybe you can think about, well, if this cigar has a viso from Jalapa, which tends to be a little bit sweeter, let's take that viso out and put a viso from Esteli, which is a little bit more of a peppery tobacco, and let's retry it again. So you have to kind of know your tobaccos and know what each one does. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, but again, it's about education and all that, and I'm trying to get it to where open it up to where people can you're basically helping each other out. It helps the factory out knowing what you want. Don't you hate
Definitely.
that? Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
man.
Boom,
And
done.
I was about to just hold it up now and show the camera and be like, look how this Connecticut's smoking. And I thought it in my head, and as soon as I thought, I said, damn it, I just jinxed myself. And I just jinxed myself.
But it's casual, but I love it, and I just want more customers and more people to understand what really goes into the aspect of a cigar. It's
Yeah,
not
man.
just, hey, I can come out be a brand owner and this is what it is.
No,
Now I'm gonna
not at
be a
all.
Fortune 500 freaking company.
No, not at all. And one of the things that everybody needs to realize, when you smoke these big brands, and there's nothing against the big brands, but when you smoke big brands, they've been doing this for a long time. They know what they're doing. They've passed it down through generations. Not only is it generational knowledge, but it's also generational wealth. When you are smoking someone that's on our level, you need to kind of give them the benefit of the doubt and try their product, because they're really trying to get to that point. Sometimes people get into this business, they don't have anybody like myself to help them or walk them through it, simply because they don't know me, or simply because they don't know anybody like me. Or a lot of people say, I want to do this on my own, like I did years ago, and it cost me a lot. And once I finally started listening to people and let people help me, is when I started progressing in the business. Um, so they're everybody is giving it their best. I can guarantee you that nobody says, I want to make a cigar so I can make something bad. I don't think I've ever
Right.
heard anybody say, I want to make a bad product. But give everybody a try, and if their cigar isn't your cup of tea, don't go on Instagram talking bad about it, because that's what social media has turned into nowadays. And it's sad. It's sad that it's gotten to the point where everybody's just bashing each other. Give everybody a try. Be respectful. If you don't like their product, keep it moving. Just don't buy it again. I don't know what else to tell you.
Oh, exactly. It's about professionalism, etiquette. Like I said, for my sake, it's not going to go into it because I don't put names out there. I had a bad experience, but I learned something. I take the positive out of it, of what not to do, or this and that. And then I revisited it and got to hook up with you, and it worked out to be the best thing.
Yeah.
And I want people to understand also at the same, with that being said, I'm old school. I was brought up old school. That's my tradition. I believe in when you start linking up with the manufacturer, okay, or anybody in that matter, you build a reputation with them, you build a rapport with that person, and you build a trust factor that you start knowing each other, correct? Now,
Yep.
with that being said, also when you move on, don't just start jumping ship. Well, yeah, I'm going to have this and then I'm not going to go over there. You got to have faith in it's kind of like the loyalty thing. Because once you
Yep.
start growing with them, it you got to keep it going. It takes work. It's not always going to be perfect, but it takes work, and you don't just move on.
The thing is that a lot of people that are starting out in the business, and I've heard it from multiple people, and I think me and you had this conversation one time, they want to use somebody like myself as a stepping stone, because they know that to get to one of the big guys, it's going to be too costly for them, and they're not going to give them the time of day. So they figure, well, we'll use these people as a stepping stone so that we can start getting cigars out there, making some money. And once we're really making money and people know us, we're gonna go to the big guys. And it's like, well, how does that make any sense? Because they're gonna change your product, they're gonna charge
Mhm.
you more money, and what are you gonna benefit out of that? Saying a big guy makes my cigar. If your cigar's already doing well with one of the small guys and one of the medium guys, stay with them. You know what I'm saying? If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Well, exactly. And my aspect of what it's trying to do is it's okay. You talked about it just a little bit ago. It's a generational thing.
Hmm.
So when you're starting out with that company and you all work together and all that, that creates a generational thing right there. When
Yeah,
you go to
definitely.
hand it down, if you plan on staying in the industry, that's how you build that generational. You work with each other, and then you start growing, and you get. But don't give up just because it doesn't work the way you want it to work, and all. Because again, it's a tough industry. It really is. But you got to have the passion and to want to be able to learn something, have an open mind.
It's a dog eat dog industry. You're going up against the best of the best, and you're going up against some ruthless people. There's a lot of drama in this industry, as we all know. There's a lot of um, bullshit, as you can say, in this industry to a certain extent. But it's one of the things that I think that if you are able to, if you're able to understand your lane and stay in your lane and not focus on what anybody else is doing, you'll be fine.
And again, that's great advice coming from you. Now, I got to flip the script a little bit. Now, when it comes to manufacturing, because when you're out there on the tobacco fields, because I saw that, you had the photographs and all that, when you're smelling the leaves, when you're sitting there looking at them, you're appreciating them, what are you actually doing with the leaf? If you can kind of walk us through that.
I'm just taking pictures.
But when you're
No,
holding the
I'm
leaf and
kidding.
all that,
I'm
I
kidding.
know,
I'm
I
kidding. I'm
know.
kidding. Man, so when you're out there, and that's one of the things that I'll be honest with you, I'm not. It's not one of my strong suits yet. It's something that I'm still trying to learn as much as possible, is the actual fields and kind of how tobacco works from the seed to the leaf. After the leaf is cultivated and it's dried, that process moving forward to what we're currently smoking now, I got it down pat. I'm not gonna say I'm an expert at it, because like
Mhm.
again, I think that those titles are given to you. You don't give yourself. But I can hold my own with anybody talking about it. Field wise, one of the things that I look at is colors of the leaves. You want to see coloration and see, does it have the enough nutrients it needs? Does it have enough water? Does it have too much? Tobacco is very tricky. If it gets more water than what it needs, it starts to rot on you. If it doesn't have enough water, it has a deficiency, and then the tobacco doesn't have that nice green color. Size of the leaf is one thing. When you look at size of the leaf, now again, multiple different tobaccos and multiple different seeds, or they all come in different sizes. So, for an example, like a broadleaf tobacco is, I mean,
Real
huge, bro.
big.
I mean, it's big. Where you can have, like for example, Viso, any Viso from any seed. Viso's a small little leaf. That's why Viso's more expensive. That's why a lot of people don't have enough Viso to go around to make all these strong, full Viso cigars and all that. So learning that thing. Another thing I look for when I'm out there is the thickness of the leaf. The thicker the leaf, the more oil the leaf has. The stickiness. A lot of times when
Mhm.
you touch the actual tobacco leaf, there's like this resin. And if you look at any pictures or any videos from anybody that's been working the fields, you can see that their hands are all sticky. It's like a sap. You know when you touch like a Christmas
Yeah.
tree,
Hmm.
like it leaves that sappy to you. Tobacco has that as well.
Really?
Yeah, 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 yeah. So you can just touch the leaf, and you can see by the thickness, you can see by how sappy it is, the oils it already has on it, what type of quantity you're looking at inside of the tobacco. Again, I'm sure there's things that I'm missing. I'm sure there's things that I might have said incorrect, because the actual cultivating and the growing of tobacco is still something that I'm very intrigued in, but I haven't gotten that far yet to really explore it how I want to, and it's more just because of a time thing. It's a short window of time where the tobacco is grown in Nicaragua and Dominican Republic, and
Right.
it's hard to always get down there, and you can't possibly stay for a whole crop season, and that's 3 or 4 months. You know what I mean? So how are you gonna win being 3 or 4 months in another country when you're running a business here? You know what I mean?
It's
Um,
difficult.
yeah, so that's something that I really enjoy because it's crazy how you plant a seed and it turns into something. Look, one other thing I completely forgot to mention, a lot of people don't know tobacco plants actually grow flowers.
Hmm. I learned
Tobacco,
that.
yeah,
I learned
tobacco
that.
plants grow flowers. And if you look at um, my logo is the outline of it is the Cuban crest, and it had these little leaves on it. So we changed them for tobacco leaves. But when you see those pink little flowers on the side of my logo, that's actually the flowers from the top of the tobacco plants.
See, that's cool. It's unique. Again,
All
you
right.
teach a lot of different people, and then I think a lot of that, and I can speak for myself by being new and coming into the industry, it's not shared a lot. But again, isn't fall always on the manufacturer or anything like that. But again, you don't ask the right questions, or you
Yeah.
don't ask. But a lot of times you don't know what questions there are, or do you care? It's again about that passion and wanting to understand it from the beginning to the end. What I mean by the end is after it's all done in the factory, they put it together, and then it starts going out. And then
The
yeah, you
problem is, Scott, and I'm sorry to cut you off. You care. I'm not saying that because we're on this podcast right now. The difference is that you really care about what's going on behind the scenes of your product and the stuff that you enjoy. With that being said, a lot of people don't care that much. They just care about that they can take pictures, they can say that it has their name on it, and let's sell it and try to make rich. Make myself rich, and that's all the wrong reasons. When you can really um, get behind it and ask the right questions to the people who have been able to make those trips and have been able to learn, that's when you capitalize.
and to me, it's kind of like when if you remember and all that, because like okay, say for instance, you know how back in generations or in cars, say for instance, when you buy a car, a lot of times you get rich kids and all that that just get it handed to them, right? They don't really take care of it all that much because they don't care because they didn't have to work for it. But when you actually go out there and work for it, and yeah, it may not be the greatest car in the world, but you take care of it. You value it more. It's the same thing with
No, definitely,
tobacco and all that. When you
definitely,
understand
definitely,
it,
definitely,
you put in the work, it means something to you,
a
not
hundred
just a
percent.
finished product, but you respect everything that went into that, not just what you get see as the finished product, to say thank you, not only to the brand owner, the manufacturer, but to the people that are out there doing it day in and day out, because that's a livelihood for them that they feed their families. So it means a lot to them.
I wish that everybody that was in this industry would see things from that point of view.
I think that's where it would help out educating more people. It's like you got to get more involved. It's not about just a finished product or like you have your logo on all that. They just see George, oh, he's from Tampeno. Bam, you got the newspaper. Well, start to learn why is it? What goes into it? Like you explain, there's different percentages. Every tobacco, it comes from what? Yeah, it comes from a tobacco leaf. It grows. They think, oh, it's all the same and all that, but it's not
Yeah,
the same.
it's man, it's so hard. It's crazy because a lot of stuff that I learned when I was in school, I said I'm never gonna use that in my life. A lot of math goes into it. There's a lot of science that goes into this business that I am not a scientist, so I couldn't tell you. But I
Mhm.
mean, even just from measuring the soils and seeing the pH levels in the soil to see the percentages that you're putting in tobacco. Like I said, there's a lot of different things that go into this business. It's not just let's slap one tobacco on top of the other and light it up and see how it smokes.
And that's what I appreciate about the whole experience that I got to have with you, and still, because like I said it on one of your lives, because the people that you have surrounded with you, you built something special.
I appreciate that.
And
Thank you.
that's what I do. It's not about the money. The money is always going to be there. the most important thing for me is about the quality, and the next one is the experience.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. People are paying for an experience. If you think about it, there's a lot of people that frequent lounges, and they're not everyday regular smokers like we might be that are smoking 2 or 3 cigars a day. A lot of people smoke cigars for the experience. They don't care what brand it is. They don't care about the price. They don't care about flavors or any of that shit. They care about the experience that's around them, who's with them, what are they doing while they're smoking that
Mhm.
cigar, who are they networking with, and that's really what it boils down to at some point.
It's a lot of creativity that goes in with just a cigar. It means a lot more, and that's where I appreciate it, and I wish so many other people will learn to appreciate it the same way. But again, we're going with each other, and that's where it's trying to spread out to where it can rub off on other people and bring the community back to where it was back in the day when it originally was.
I think this industry is going through a shakeup, and I think it's going to happen more this year. There's been a lot of companies that have came to light in the last few years, and I don't think all of them that have came out have the best intention for the industry. I feel like there will be some type of cleanup or like this year's gonna weed everybody out. You know, tobacco's through the roof. Prices of tobacco. Um, Everything's gone up, and there's gonna be a lot of people that are not gonna be able to withstand the hit. If that makes any sense. A lot of
Mhm.
factories are not producing cigars for other people because they don't have enough tobacco. You know, to make extra stuff, they gotta focus on their own stuff. A lot of people aren't selling all types of tobacco because they gotta keep it for their own production. So there's a lot of different things that are gonna come into play this year that I feel like some people are not gonna be able to withstand if they don't have the right partnerships and the right setups.
And I think that's very valuable information, all that. Man, I just got to commend you on the work that you do and
Thank you,
patience that you have
thank
with
you, thank you.
working with people. You're
It's
genuine.
hard. It's hard.
It is, but that's why it was my next question is, well, when you deal with the drama, in your own opinion,
I don't deal
how
with it.
hard is it?
I don't
I
deal
mean,
with it.
how do you
I
deal with it?
I don't take part in it. Simple. If you want to call me and talk to me for 4 hours about tobacco, about cigars, about a deal, about an event, about something, let's do it. If you want to call me and talk shit about somebody else, don't call me. I'll cut you off real quick. People, hey, did you hear about this? No, I didn't hear, man. But look,
Okay.
honestly, I don't have time right now. I'm caught up in the middle of something. Let me call you back. Okay, cool, no problem. You know what I mean? And sometimes I genuinely don't have time. But sometimes I just don't want to hear it. I don't want to be caught up in it because then it turns into a he said, she said, and that's not my thing. I don't have any patience for that. My patience is to answer the same question every week, day in and day out. And by every question, it's not a specific question. For an example, all the stuff me and you went over when you first decided that you want to start making your products with us wasn't anything new. Those are questions that I've answered a million times, but it
Hmm.
doesn't bother me to answer them a million and one because I can tell that you're genuine and you care. When it comes to the drama, I don't have patience for that. You don't call me on anybody, especially if it's something that has to involve anybody else. If it involves me, I'll listen to you because I want to see what's being going on about me. But if it involves two other people, don't call me. Don't call me. I have no business and no interest in that. If it's not directly affecting me or my business, I don't care.
Well,
Simple as
exactly.
that.
This is a professional etiquette, and there it does happen. But with newer people coming in, some of them get a little bit sidetracked by that because
They
of the
get caught up. It's a
negativity.
reality series.
Yeah, and so it kind of hurts because if they want to have a really good experience, it's the same thing with smoking a cigar. It's about that experience.
Correct.
You want to make it as good as possible because it reflects not just only you, it reflects the cigar industry itself.
Correct.
And there was a lot of sacrifices that went into by creating it. Again, it wasn't about money. When you see the Padrones and the Fuentes and all them and all that, the generational, they did the sacrifices.
Correct.
They put in the work. And it wasn't
100%.
about money because they loved it and they were passionate about it. It's like, how can we make this better?
All right.
Newer ones, yes, they came into that, but they
All right.
didn't have to do the legwork, so to speak, the grunt work like their ancestor did. That's where
You're
it's
right.
important when you got new companies or like yourself, you put more work into it, but you're laying down that legacy, those generational roots by doing it in the beginning because you're putting in the work.
I hope so. That's the plan. That's what we're
But you're doing it. But
that's what
that's
we're
the
trying to
thing.
do.
But that's the whole important thing that people got to understand is you're putting in the work, just like me, and just like there's a lot of others that are putting in the
All right.
work to make it the way it is. I
Correct.
don't see it as a boutique against a bigger. We're all the same thing.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
once they were there too. Everybody has to start at the bottom.
I never cared for the term boutique, and I've learned to accept it and to live with it now. But I never cared for it because I felt like it was classifying and it was putting us into a separate category. That even though we might have belonged in a separate category, um, it made us seem like our product was of a lesser value or of a lesser
Yeah.
quality. And I never liked the term. Like I said, I've learned to live with it because it's not going away. But it's just a loose term that people use. There's companies that still say they're boutique and they're not anymore. So it's just a term that people attach to themselves, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it does. But
I don't
again,
say I'm boutique. I've never said I'm boutique.
well, again, me being a lot older and all that, been around it a long time, not in the industry by being on as a business owner or anything else like that, but smoking cigars. My grandfather smoked cigars, and they were never called boutiques.
Mm-mm.
It was never called that.
Cigar's a
This is
cigar.
this has happened within the past 10 to 15 years that
Yeah,
it transitioned and that name even came about because never heard of it. When I came in the
never.
first time I heard boutique, it's like, what's that? I never
That
heard
never
of that
existed.
before.
That never existed.
No, that there was no separate. You were beginning, you're learning. As long as only thing that matters is you were putting out quality cigars, you're in the industry,
Right.
period. You're in the
Right.
cigar industry, just
Right.
like the cigarette brands. They don't sit there say, "Hey, you got a boutique brand," or the
Yeah.
same
No.
thing in the wine industry or the beer. You're not boutique,
Right.
if that makes sense. And
I
that's what
agree.
people got to get that stuff, that stereotype out of your head. A cigar is a cigar, but it's look at it for a different perspective. Look at it with the quality, what went into it, the construction of it, and what you get out of it. Does
I
it
I
suit
agree.
you? Do
I
you
agree
have fun
100%.
with that?
Yeah. That's how it goes.
And you've done that, my man. You have done that on every
I've
aspect, at least
tried
for
to.
myself. I
I've tried
speak
to.
for myself, but that's what I wanted. And it's important to me that people knows because that's why I align myself with Tampeno Cigars
Thank you. I appreciate
because
that.
we're all a family.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I put my 501c everything. Just like people go, hey, you're in it for the money. Do you have to do just cigars? No, because my life doesn't revolve around that. It's not about the money. It's about I enjoy it and I have a passion. And funny, really quick in a story, technically, my family goes back generations. My last name, the way it was spelled, Diggs, was actually Digges, which in Virginia was where a lot of the tobacco came from
Mm-hmm.
back in the 1600s. My ancestor was Edward Diggs. He was the first governor of Virginia, came from England.
Oh wow.
He brought it over, and he was one of the first ones to give a little bit of a flavor to the cigars. So it was called Edie Tobacco
Okay.
for Edward Diggs. He was the first governor. He was
Wow.
right across from George Washington.
Wow.
So, and it's weird because it started out way back then, it stopped, and now it all revolutionized. And here I am coming right back into the tobacco industry, picking
It's
up
funny. It's
off
funny
that.
you say that. I have somewhat of a similar story. So I'm sure you remember in 1980 there was the Mariel boat lift out of Cuba where all of the Cubans were coming over here on boats and all that.
Hmm.
My dad and them were trying to come during that, and for some reason they couldn't leave. Fast forward a couple months later, they're looking through documents in the house in Cuba, and they find a U.S. birth certificate. They're like, "Who the hell was born in the U.S.?" Long story short, my great grandmother was born in the U.S., and when I asked, she was born in Ybor City, like 1909. I said, "How was
Well,
she born in Ybor and ended up in Cuba?" And my grandmother told me that her grandparents, so my great great grandparents, were from Spain and they moved to Cuba and they were in the tobacco industry. So they would buy tobacco in Cuba and they would come on the ferry to Tampa and they would sell it to all the cigar factories in Tampa. So on one of those trips to Tampa to sell tobacco, my great grandmother was born. And when she was like, I think it was
oh,
like 9 months old or some shit like that, they took her back to Cuba and she lived the rest of her life. She had kids, grandkids in Cuba and all that. And she went to the U.S. Embassy in Cuba in 1980, and they said, "No, you're free to go. You're an American citizen." And she, right then and there, brought her kids' spouses, and all her grandkids that were under the age of 18 to the U.S. with the U.S. residency. And
yeah.
it's funny because I had no idea that I had family that was in tobacco.
But again, that's what people that's part of the experience.
Yeah,
It's an education that people need to know know these things.
yeah,
Like I said, with mine, it's all in Virginia. That's where my background is in Virginia. And it was funny because it used to be the Warburton Manor. They created a lot of stuff in Virginia. If you ever look it up under ED Tobacco, I have the picture. It was like it's freaking amazing.
yeah. It is.
They had lots of land. He did silk and he did the tobacco for ED Tobacco in 1600 and something.
Wow,
Founded it, and it grew from there because they were heavily into the tobacco. Because a lot of my family, they were also ship captains, where they had their own boats. They made their boats and
wow,
they traveled across the seas, taking different tobaccos back and forth.
wow. That's crazy.
So
Wow.
again, it's a legacy, but the question is what do we want to have a legacy of?
Right,
It's back to that same instant because you have a passion for it. It wasn't about the money. It's because you enjoy it. So how can you? It's not changing the whole industry. It's just how can you make it little bit better
correct.
and grow from that? It's kind of like being a recovering alcoholic like I am. Is I look at it as okay when you go to like an AA and all that, you read books, okay, of everybody of their stories back then. It's the same thing, but now what happens is now it's time to change that up and rewrite that book on the stories of what the now is.
Yeah,
And that's kind of like the tobacco industry. Don't go back in history. Yes, don't ever forget your roots. Build your foundation off of that. But we have to adapt to the new age now because before it was mostly a pristine thing to be able to smoke cigar, rich thing. It
yeah.
it wasn't about anything else. Now we have younger people that are smoking cigars that never did that before.
100%. 100%. There's a different wave of cigar connoisseurs out right now that I don't even understand it sometimes.
So it's about adapting to that.
Yeah,
How do we adapt to that and make it
figure them
better
out.
experiences? So what do
Figure
we have
your
to do?
market. Figure. I mean, there's so much that goes into this business. It's incredible.
But it's also very fun to
Yeah, yeah. It
exciting.
could get stressful at times, when you're tired or just you're beat, man. Because sometimes it's not even a physical thing. Because this isn't a physically draining business. It's a mentally draining business. Because you're always thinking about what's next, what's the next move. Studying different markets, studying tobacco. It's tough. A lot of people think that you make a cigar and you get on podcasts or you get on Instagram Live, and that's not even a quarter of it. You know what I mean?
But nobody has the opportunity, like I shared the other day, of getting into a new shop for the first time. To me, that's an experience to have.
Your
And
first one's always the best.
well, yeah, but you don't see that hardly at all
No,
on when we're talking about the cigar industry. Why aren't we talking about that? their very first experiences or when they get that, because those should be celebrations, because that's not only is that a win for you and me and our team and all that, our family, it's a win for the cigar industry.
Yeah,
It's exciting and to be able to share that on exactly and to help people understand what it took to get there.
a lot of people, unfortunately, though, they don't look at it like that.
Well, hell, then we got to change the world, man.
That's tough. I think there's people out there trying to do that as we speak.
But we're doing it though. But the more we like, I put this out there, put it out there, more people will sit there and listen. That's all you need. As long as you can get to one person, you've done your job,
Yeah, I agree.
because they appreciate it and they appreciate you. But the
I
work
agree.
that it takes,
You're
because you
right.
don't do it for all the money. Yes, the money comes with it. That you're always going to have money, right? But it's not a rich scheme. You
No,
take it way different level.
you could try to do it for the money, but you're limited on how long you can last in this business just focusing on money. You have to focus on all the other stuff as well.
I think it's great. So, what is to kind of go to a different area, if you don't mind?
Yeah, yeah.
Did you ever dream that you would be where you are right now? Did you think it was possible?
You know what's crazy?
Mhm.
I had this conversation the other day with somebody. And back in 2016, 17, when I was first starting in this business, 17, around there. Um, my main goal was I would love to be able to, because I've always wanted to have a business. I just never
Mhm.
knew what I wanted to have. And my fascination was when I started in this business to be at a point where I can say and actually do and live off of my own business, and do something that I love. And it's funny because it's human nature. We're always thinking about what's next and how to grow. And I see other manufacturers and other companies, and they have huge warehouses and they have these mega factories and all this stuff. I'm like, damn, I want that, or I want this. But something I sit back and I think, I'm like, where I wanted to be less than 10 years ago, I'm already there. But it's funny because the mind's always pushing you to do more and to grow and to achieve more things. But sometimes you got to sit back and think, wow, I got to the point that I always wanted to get at. I didn't know if it was going to be possible or not, but things gradually happen over time where it doesn't seem like it. How do I put it? It doesn't seem like you reach those goals as fast as you wanted to. You have to have patience. And then when you get there, you have like a little win where you feel good, but then it's always about, well, how do I get to that next stage?
Mhm.
And I'm at that point, okay, well, how do I get to the next stage? But yeah, I mean, I didn't imagine that I was gonna be able to get to where I'm at now. And I still have a long road to go to get to where, you know, we wanna be and get to, you know, the level that a lot of other people are at. But I mean, I just think it's amazing to be able to say that I live off of something that I love, and that's cigars.
And how has it been for like your family, like as far as support wise? Because a lot
They're
of people don't
great.
realize it too.
They're great, man. At first, it was something that I don't think everybody took very seriously. I think it was seen more as like a hobby for me. That's how they kind of took it, and in my mind, I always knew that I wanted it to be something serious. And in the last probably 3 years, it's been very okay. This is a serious thing because you remember, man, when you first start out in this business, you don't make no money. All the money you
Mhm.
make, you pour it back into the company. So when you're not around, and you don't spend as much time, and there's no money coming in, everybody's like, "Well, what the hell is this guy doing?" Where I think and my family's always been very supportive, so I really can't complain. But where I think that it's been definitely like life changing in a way is when I opened Tampeno, and branched out on my own. I think that's where everybody is like, oh wait, this is serious, and everybody, you know, my family's very involved in the business, so in events and traveling, any projects that I have locally here, they're in. I try to involve everybody because I do need that help. and everybody's kind of like, okay, well, this isn't a hobby anymore. This is a legit business, you know.
Mhm.
So everybody's now is on board, and everybody's always willing to help however they can.
And I think people should know that because they don't understand the sacrifices that you make. Because it's just like me when I was in the service. When you leave your family to go overseas or go to on a business trip and all that, you're away from your family. And all the time you do get, hey, I'm gonna bring my family along with me, and because it's about business and going through the process. People don't get to know behind the scenes what that's like and the
Correct.
different stressors that it
Correct.
puts on you.
I've missed birthdays, I've missed school plays, I've missed dance recitals, I've missed Halloween, I've missed multiple things, but it's obviously no repercussion because it's with the intention that everybody understands is to better ourselves and to grow in business and to grow as a family. And I've had the opportunity where I've been able to take my family on multiple different business trips and excursions, as I call them, so they
Mhm.
can see kind of what I do behind the scenes, and I think that kind of helped overall solidify what it is that I do, and they understand it and they know. I mean, look, right now it's Sunday. You know, I try not to work on the weekends, but if there's something that needs to be done, it needs to be done. And to me, it doesn't bother me. I'll work every day of the week because I love what I do. But
Mhm.
I also have to find that medium of separating time to be with the family and to get stuff done around the house and, stuff like that, because it can't all just be work 100% of the time.
It does, and I commend your family too for the patience because it pays off. It's
Yeah.
like when you play a game of chess, you strategically place pieces in different locations in different ways, and it doesn't happen overnight
No.
because it won't. It
No.
happens. It's a must. You have to have the patience,
Yeah.
and it will work out in the long run. But you got to
That's the
keep
plan.
grinding.
That's the plan. We're on our way.
And again, you're doing a fabulous job.
Thank you. Thank
Everything.
you.
The rolling, I want to learn not only the factory side of being out into the field, getting to be able to see it and, kind of go through it and do it myself too. Same thing like rolling. I want to learn rolling
It's
because it's
not
a
as
technique. It's exciting to me.
it's not as hard as it looks. It's all about, you said, the technique. Once your hands are trained to deal with tobacco on such a delicate level, it's not that hard. It's just about getting the technique down, what works for you, and just practicing. Sometimes I'll come out, and I'll sit in here and I'll say, you know what, I'm gonna roll a couple cigars just to not lose the ability. And there's been times where I've had events where my one of my cigar rollers can't make it, whatever the case is, and I'll sit down and do the event. People are looking at me like, "You're gonna roll cigars?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I still remember how to do it."
That that's freaking amazing and all that because they don't know that they think, oh, you're just the business owner, but
Correct,
you're out there, you're doing it in all aspects of it.
correct, correct,
Because I think
correct.
that is a big key part on knowing every single part of it because it's hard for you to teach anybody else if you don't know what you're doing.
100%.
And running a business is a beast of its own, just on its own,
Yeah,
keeping it
man.
afloat.
Yeah, it's tough.
And hiring, how does it for Tampeno for yourself? What do you look for when, like, for your employees?
Man, I'll be honest with you. Right now, that's a big void that Tampeno has, and it's manpower. We have the product, we have the prices, we have the the backing from factories, we have everything we need. We just need manpower. I can't run the business and have a family and be out on the street all day trying to open up accounts. I do as much as I can when I can, but it's hard because you know, at first I would just try to bring on people who kind of had a basic understanding of cigars, who enjoyed cigars and seemed like they were hard workers. I've gotten to the point now that the business is at a level that it's serious, and I'm trying to bring on people who are serious. But then anybody that's serious is not going to come on board for just a commission. They want a guaranteed salary plus commission and stuff. So you got to have the revenue coming in to be able to support that person. So right now we're at a crossroads of what's the next step with manpower? How do we hire somebody? Do we get somebody who doesn't know anything and invest the time and money to train them and to teach them, or do we spend the extra money to get somebody who knows what they're doing and already does it, and potentially, they don't work out? It's tough, man. It's tough. It's tough. It's tough. That's one of the biggest roadblocks I've faced with
Interesting.
this company.
Is being in the industry is the manpower.
Is the correct manpower,
Mhm.
because a lot of times people want to get into the business and they don't want to get into the business for necessarily the the financials behind it, or to be able to build with a growing company and turn into some type of executive one day. They get into the industry so that they can just tell their friends they're in a cigar industry, or they're part of a cigar
Yes.
company, and that's not beneficial to nor them or the company.
Or the industry,
Right.
because it's a big that's where I'm trying to learn, and the different aspects of that is when you're hiring people, what do you look for? Is it loyalty? Is it the the honest decency of, hey, I really want to learn something?
Loyalty's something that is essential, but unfortunately, you don't figure out somebody's loyalty until it's tested.
And that's
So
true.
it's hard to
Yes.
hire somebody who you think is loyal, because you never know until somebody's loyalty is tested.
But bringing some up, because like I've learned it. Like I said, I've been in different industries for a long time, and like being in the electrical industry, let's put it that way, that's a difficult one of its own because it deals with people's lives.
Yeah,
Electricity does. When you're high
yeah.
voltage, even it goes down to like a residential. People think, oh, well, you're just a residential electrician or this and that.
You can burn
It's
somebody's house down.
exactly, there's lives. There's a family that lives in there.
Yeah,
Like I had to learn from the bottom, learn the residential because I couldn't stand residential. It's like that's not where the money's at. But I had to learn. It's like, but you got to be well rounded to be
100%.
able to understand the concept of it. And when you're training somebody, when you get up into those positions, the higher positions, their lives are on the line.
Yeah,
So in essence, I look at it is that's what I'm doing with my business and with everything else being the tobacco industry, trying to bring that kind of mentality. That's where we had apprentices, where you teach them,
yeah.
but because it's a life or death situation and all that. Because, hey, first of all, if you put out bad products and all that, it starts getting bad and all that, people can get really sick from it.
Yeah.
And that's a bad reflection on everybody. So you want
Correct.
to put out the quality products. You
Correct.
don't want nobody getting hurt. You don't want, because storms, there's a lot of variables that go alongside with that.
Yeah.
But taking the time to say, now, do I want to invest in this person? How would it be? That's of going about in your eyes as a company owner, being well established already, trying to go about hiring people and bring them up through your company
It's tough, man. I just can't give you a for sure answer because I don't have it figured out yet.
because
I
it's
wish I
ongoing,
could.
it's learning.
Yeah, I wish I could tell you, but when I figure it out, I'll let you know, because I still haven't figured it out. It's
I don't
tough.
think any of us have. We're
Yeah,
just
it's not.
it's always a learning process because you don't know. Everybody's got a backstory. Everybody's got this and that, but it's the genuine, and just like how we try to respect each other and work as a family and a team and all that is the integrity and the mutual respect that we have for one another. And but the most important is being transparent,
Correct.
transparent as possible within reason.
Correct.
Now, if you ask me the impossible things, come on, no comment. I'm not going to go down that road.
Correct.
You ask me serious things that matter, that is important, I have no problems on help teaching somebody
Correct.
because all of our time is valuable.
Yep.
So don't waste my time. Don't waste your time. We got to be on the same page. But again, be professional at the same time.
Correct. I agree.
So that's why I'm excited. I know you've taken a lot of time, and I greatly appreciate
No, of
you
course.
taking
Thank
the
you.
time out of your day.
No, thank you for having me on too, man. Anytime we can do this, it's great. I just it's something that needs to be done more. It's just all about organization and time. But I really appreciate you having me on today.
Well, it's great because I want people to get to know you and know what your company stands for
Thank you.
and what it means to the industry, that you take it seriously. You're here to stay, and you're going to put out quality, and you're going to put out that great experience.
That's our goal.
And there's nothing less that you're not going to compromise your integrity of the company for that, for
No, I'd
nobody.
rather shut it down and pressure wash or something.
But you would just do it on your own. But that's what I'm
Yeah,
trying to get to relay to people on the importance of this. Use these platforms for the positive. That's like when I talk to you, it's a celebration of growing together, the
definitely.
accomplishments and the achievements that we make and strive with each other, and for everybody else. The factory, Maria and Dominican Republic, each one, the factory was, how do you pronounce it? I got mixed up. For your factory, the guys have in Nicaragua.
Oh, the Vegas to Jalapa factory?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Uh, who's the company that you guys go through?
What do you
Is it
mean?
Aragon or
What? No,
I
they
forget
have
the
they have their own company.
who was I talking to on your Tampania Tuesday at the
That's
fact?
Aragon, but he has his own factory. They're their own separate business.
Well, to
He's just a friend of
completely,
mine.
yeah, but those different aspects of what it all comes down to is very key.
Yeah.
Yes, we've had our ups and downs, as does everybody.
All right.
But the biggest thing is the most important thing is how do you come back from that? Turn it into a positive. Now you know what to look for, what not to look for, and how important the feedback is.
Yep.
Just like the stores, the shops. You don't know. You can't read everybody's mind.
Nope.
Just like your rollers and everybody else. You have to ask them questions because you're not there to share it with them. You want to know what that experience was.
Yeah.
How was it?
100%.
And if there was a
100%.
negative, to help get it better for the next time.
100%.
So with that being said, you know what? It's a fantastic talk. I hope you have a fantastic Sunday. Enjoy it
Thanks,
with
man.
your family. And congratulations to all of us as a
Thank
team.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
That's what I'm
Thank you. I
about, is
appreciate it.
celebrating all of us together.
Perfect. And listen, thank you for having me on. Thank you for taking the time. And hopefully we can set something up soon and talk about future projects.
Oh, absolutely. Because it's
All
going to be
right.
on like Donkey Kong. Now let's do this right. Let's get it. Let's get her
Perfect.
done. But
Perfect. I
make time.
appreciate it, man.
I would love to come out to the factory with you one time,
Yeah,
traveling together.
we'll set something up.
Absolutely.
All
Anyway,
right.
thank you so much. I appreciate your
No
time.
problem, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right.
Take it easy, my friend.
You too. You too.
God bless.
Bye.
Now, there's my man, Tampeno George of Tampeno Cigars. If you haven't had one, go out and get it. If you're in the interest of trying to start your own cigar brand or anything like that, like George said, please go out, venture out, give them a chance, talk to them. But it's about the experience that you get from this. Those are key points. Be loyal to one another, help each other, support each other, but do it because you love it and have the right reasons behind it. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on and listening. Hope you learned something, because I know I have. Have a fantastic day. God bless.